To Kill a Mockingbird and Gone with the Wind, and unforgettable characters such as Atticus Finch, Rhett Butler, and Scarlett O'Hara have thrilled millions of readers decade after decade. Now, there is a new treasure trove of books out there that are mostly ignored. Many self-publishing authors are just waiting to get discovered. We are encouraging readers like yourself to take a chance and read their books. You can find them on Amazon.com, Amazon on Kindle, Barnes & Nobles, Goodreads.com, and Kobo. Also on Scribd, Versa, and iBook, or hopefully soon at your nearest public library.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our new episode of Bios to Books. I'm your host, Dan Davidson. Before I introduce today's guest author, I'd just like to thank our loyal followers for their support. And if you are new to the show, welcome aboard. If you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please press the subscribe button and join now. It costs absolutely nothing, and it goes a long way for helping us on YouTube. Thank you. Hi, Deb. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's nice to have you here. I just want to go over a couple, just to talk a little bit about what the idea, the purpose of the show is. It's of course to introduce authors to the readership out there and talk about their books and things like that. But before I usually do that, I like the audience to know a little bit about the author and where they came from, what got them into writing, etc., and talk about some of their interests right now and things like that. So I'm going to start. I know you were born in Omaha, Nebraska. At least I hope that's right. That's
correct. Yes.
Oh, and
that's where I grew up.
Okay, that was my next question. Is that where you grew up to? Okay.
That's where I grew up, and I moved to Arizona in 1979, I think it was.
Okay.
Decided I needed a change of scenery, so I moved to Arizona.
And weather too, right?
Yeah, and weather. I don't know. This, when it's hot, it's bad, and when it's freezing cold, it's bad. So you just have to find the middle. Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. When you moved to Arizona, is that when you moved to Mesa?
Yes, I lived in Tempe and Mesa, that area, Phoenix area, ever since I've been down here in '79. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
a long time now. I think I've been here longer here than I've been in Nebraska. So.
Okay,
I'm in Arizona now.
You're in Arizona. Okay, I get that. Okay,
yeah.
I'm only here about 3 years, so I moved from Nevada to here, so I'm really not an Arizonian yet, but I'm trying hard.
Yeah, Nevada's pretty similar, I would think. I don't know what part of Nevada you were from, but
I was in the wrong part.
It's pretty similar in weather.
I was close to Las Vegas, but but the weather is the same.
Yeah,
exactly the
pretty
same.
Much.
But yeah, and I also noticed that you own a home in Bisbee that may be haunted.
Yes, I have a second weekend home, and it's down in Bisbee, Arizona, which is an old mining town. And yeah, we have like a little girl ghost in the house. We have a gentleman, I think he's an old miner that is in the house. And we see them once in a while, not all the time. But then again, the house is across the street from a cemetery, so they could just be visitors walking through,
Okay, yeah,
paying a visit from across the street. I have interesting neighbors across the street.
Yeah, very interesting neighbors. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but Bisbee's a very haunted town. Bisbee's very haunted.
Have you had any direct experiences with these people that wander around over there?
I have seen the little girl. I was I had the TV on and I was reading and I looked up and there was a little girl standing between me and the TV. And we just kind of made contact and she just disappeared. She looked like she's from the 1930s. She had a little bowl haircut, sandy brown hair and a little dress on. So I think she was from the 1930s. My house was built in 1917, I believe.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that could very well be 1930s. That's interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
I think so.
Yeah. Now I noticed that you're a member of the Ghost Chasers of Mesa Bisbee. Is that correct?
Yes, I am the director of the MVD Ghost Chasers. And MVD, what that is the Motor Vehicle Department. That's where I'm retired from. I worked for the Motor Vehicle Department for 25 years.
Oh,
And
okay.
kind of got a ghost team together from work. And then we just started going places around Arizona. And it was kind of a good stress release from when you work for the Motor Vehicle Department or the DMV,
Yes.
whatever you call it in your area.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how the team got together. So it's one of the longest running teams in Arizona. We've been together since about 1994, I think, is when we got the team started.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I have here, 1994. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've been on a couple of shows too, right?
Yes, I have been on a show on Travel Channel twice. One show is called Ghost Stories. And that one was a story told about a spirit up in Jerome, Arizona. And I just kind of always do the history background things.
Right.
And I've also been on Ghost Adventures with Zach Baggins and the guys. And
Oh,
that
okay.
was one in Globe, Arizona on the Gila County Jail. So again,
okay.
I was, background telling some of the history of the haunting, why it's haunted, and that
Right.
type of thing, what could be causing the haunting.
Right. Right.
It was fun.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to mention something later about one of my experience in the was it Globe, Arizona, the jail
Globe.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll
Yeah.
talk about that when we get to that later. Anyway, I stole a little bit of your biography, but I'm not sure if it's completely up to date. Okay.
Okay.
I know it says that you conduct these historic cemetery tours for the Pioneer Cemetery Association in Phoenix.
Yes. We haven't done one lately, but we do. We used to have reenactors, come and stand by the graves and tell the history of that person. I do a lot of preservation work where I help, repair, and maintain old graves. I'm
Right.
on our crew there.
Right.
And we do all different kind of fundraisers to raise money to keep the preservation work going. So the tours were part of the preservation work too. So it's just things to get people to come down the cemetery and see that it's just not, a old, abandoned cemetery. It's quite active. That's our Phoenix's history right there. And it was the original cemetery in Phoenix. So quite active, involved. I'm on the board of directors of that.
Yeah, you can't beat a cemetery for history, that's for sure. I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
You learn so much. I mean, you learn about the people, you learn their lives, and after a while, you just walk through the cemetery, and you can tell, give tours and tell people about this is what this person did, and this is why they're here, and it's like a little village, it's like a little town in underground, pretty much.
Right.
So very interesting. I love cemeteries.
A quiet town.
Yeah, very quiet town.
Exactly. I guess so. So when you get the community involved, I guess that's where this Adopt a Tombstone program came in.
Yeah, they have that. They have several programs. They had Adopt a Tombstone. They are having right now, we try to get people to help support the preservation work. That's kind of our main goal right now. And in February, we have our conservator that teaches us how to do all this. He comes from New York and stays with us for about 2 weeks. So we learn new techniques. We learn how to fix different things when they come, So it's very educational. And a lot of people come to us for ideas on how to fix their cemeteries too. So we're quite active in the cemetery world.
So basically, they're teaching you how to maintain and preserve the old tombstones.
Maintain a cemetery and how to do repairs and on some of the stones so they'll be around for another 100 years. Fixing the little cracks, straightening them, leveling, the ground to make them so they don't fall over. Things like that. Just, maintaining the stones.
Now, when you stared at any of these particular tombstones, whether you're by yourself, working on them or giving a tour, do you ever experience anything at a particular tombstone that you feel might be a little bit out of the ordinary?
Well, what's interesting about our cemetery, it's built over an old Hohokam village. And at one end of our cemetery, there's actually a Hohokam burial ground. So not only are we a historic, cemetery, we are over a prehistoric cemetery, in other words.
Wow.
And so there have been times when you're out there, maintaining, we do a lot of have to clean up and everything there too, picking up papers that fly in and that. You get the feeling that there's people watching you, but they're all happy spirits. They're glad we're there. They're glad we're taking care of things. Now, the one incident I found a piece of pottery. I was out picking up papers in the cemetery, and I found a piece of pottery. I took it back to our offices, which is an old historical house, to show everybody, because it was very, colorful, had design on it and everything. And I left it in the house for them to look at. And I went back out there and continued my, cleanup work. And all of a sudden, I was like working over an iron rod fencing, and I got kind of pushed a little bit. And I thought, I'm going to be impaled on the fencing. And it was all like slow motion. And I went actually between two, of the barbs. And thank goodness, all it did was kind of nick my jeans. And so I immediately went back in the house. I'm putting that back out there because, whoever I, borrowed this little piece, they're not happy. So I went back and, put it back underground. And that's what we always do, because we find a lot of old pottery and pieces out there, and we just bury it back under the ground where it needs to be. We don't, take it out or anything like that. So.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Yesterday I was watching one of those programs on YouTube where the gentleman gives you tours of different cemeteries and talks about certain people in the cemeteries. He's talking about this young boy that had been murdered, and very, very young. I think he was only 8 years old. And someone apparently had come there several years later and desecrated the grave and stole the skull. And all kinds of weird things were going on at the cemetery after that. Very angry things. And
yeah,
they finally found it was a teenage boy that did it. They found the boy, and they retrieved the skull, and they reburied it. And once they reburied it, everything went back to normal again.
Right.
There was no more hostility. There was no more weird things going on. And I said, maybe not. I don't know, but it sounds like it could have been.
Yeah. Yeah, they're protective. We're protective of our cemetery, so they know we're there with the best interest. So they don't have any qualms when we have to go and, dig a hole by a grave or something like that, because they know we're going to be, doing a repair. And
right.
So, I think the spirits are quite pleased with our works. We have one of the ladies at the cemetery who was one of our volunteers for years and years and years. And that was always her dream, for them to do the preservation work. Well, just as we started the project, she was elderly and she passed away. And occasionally we have seen her inside the little cemetery house. And it's, I think she's just there because she's so happy that we're doing her work that she always wanted. So, it's a happy cemetery. We don't have any bad things ever happening there. We've always been really lucky.
Well, you're there for a good purpose. That's
we're good there.
why.
We're for a good cause and good purpose. And like I said, we're always, trying to get people out when we have open house to experience the cemetery. We'll like on Valentine's Day, we'll find markers that have, love on it, or people that we died on Valentine's Day, or was, born on Valentine's Day. In April, we'll do one with flowers. So we'll find tombstones that have names of flowers or pictures of flowers. Right. When it's I think it was at March, for St. Patrick's Day, we'll look for the Irish, people, and we did an Irish wake out in our big patio, and so we always try to get people ideas, that cemeteries can be educational, so that they will come and enjoy it.
Right, not just depressing.
A couple of weeks we're doing for, the Day of the Dead celebration. We are doing a little mini fundraiser where people can come and paint. We get those Victorian dolls, that everybody gets for Christmas, those little porcelain dolls, and we change their faces because we paint them into Day of the Dead dolls. And it is so much fun, and people, the ladies come, and we with COVID, we've been dividing up the group smaller, and they paint for a couple hours and change these beautiful little princess dolls into beautiful Day of the Dead dolls. So that's what we do as a fundraiser every year too. So that's coming up in about 3 weeks, I think.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. the reason I was asking you about your experiences
Uh-huh.
because you spent so much time there is that I've had two incidents. I'm not a big, I don't want to use the word believer. I'm not a big believer in the paranormal
Uh-huh.
in itself, but I'm suddenly becoming more intrigued by it. Through
Yes.
my experiences with my son's shows with the paranormal and the other groups that I follow now,
Hmm.
I'm beginning to have more of an attitude that you know what this could be. It may not be much malarkey as I thought it was, and it could very well be something going on because I had two separate experiences, and I just want to run them by you because
Yeah, please
and
do.
just to see what you think about it. Because, like I said, I was not looking for it, and I'm not one of these people that look for this kind of stuff or even deeply interested in it. Although, like I say, I'm starting to change my way on that. But the first time happened, I'm a big history buff, and I visited a
Hmm.
lot of, especially Civil War and the Second World War, two
Oh,
of my big
yeah.
ones. And I visited a lot of Civil War battlefields, mainly Gettysburg because it was the closest one to my home at the time when I lived in New York. And
Right.
I had gone there like 4 or 5 times, and every time I went to the cemetery itself, the actual military cemetery there, I always had a strange feeling, but nothing ever happened. But the last time I went with my brother-in-law, it was starting to get not dark, but the sun was going down, and we were
Hmm.
standing at this particular grave, and I remember the gentleman's name was a Corporal something Walker, and he was a Union soldier, and I'm standing there and I'm staring at it, and my brother-in-law is talking to me, and I'm not hearing him. I'm just staring at this tombstone because this is what he told me. He said you were just staring at this tombstone, and I couldn't take my eyes away from the tombstone and the writing on it,
Right.
and I felt like something was drawing me to this tombstone. And I'm going, I don't know anybody named Walker, and I certainly don't
Yeah.
know anybody that died at Gettysburg. What's going on? And I could not get away from it. And as I tried to walk away, I kept turning around and going back and turning around and going back. And finally, my brother-in-law grabbed me by the arm, and we walked away because he just said it was very weird. And I tried to explain to him, I don't know what happened. It's just one of those things that made me feel very, I guess, uncomfortable, I guess is the
Yeah.
word, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't explain it. So that was one experience.
Hmm.
And my second experience was when I went to the Globe Jail with my son and my daughter-in-law.
Hmm.
I'm going there to look at the history of it. Like I said, I'm a big history buff. Not going there to hear about the paranormal and the ghost stories, which they have plenty of, as you know,
Hmm.
from that particular jail, because I think it was built in the late 1800s or something like it, if I remember
Yeah.
right. So anyway, we're going on the second floor, and I'm reading all the historical parts of it, because that's what I'm interested in. And we stop at this window, and my son's telling me about how the gentleman that was incarcerated in that particular jail cell had killed
Hmm.
two little girls, and someone in the courthouse was just across from where the jail was, took a rifle and shot him and killed him.
Hmm.
And they weren't sure who did it, but they think it was the father, but they weren't
Hmm.
sure. Anyway, I'm standing there, and I'm listening to him, and I walk back to the jail cell, and I'm staring at, they have like this mock dummy in there showing you where the guy was laying when he got shot.
Right. Right.
And suddenly I get this tug on my shirt. And I don't mean a little gentle tug. I mean like somebody tried to knock me off balance, that kind of tug. And I turned around and nothing was there, nothing. And I'm going, wait a minute. I know I didn't imagine the tug. What what is going on here? And I'm saying, I don't, I'm not here to find out about ghost stories and paranormal. I'm looking at history. What's going on here? So I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't want my son and my daughter-in-law to think, now that he thinks there's a paranormal problem, this is in his mind or what. So I didn't say anything at first, and I finally mentioned to my daughter-in-law, you're not going to believe this. And I said, but I'm telling you the truth. This is what happened. I got this hard tug on my shirt. I turned around and nobody was there. I says, you don't think this ghost of this guy that got killed, is still here or something? She goes, that wasn't the guy. That was the two little girls. I said, what are you talking about? She says, you weren't paying attention to anything about them. Everything was focused on the guy in the history, and they probably tugged on your shirt to get your attention. She says, it happens here a lot. I go,
Yeah.
really? So those are my two experiences. I just wanted to know what you think about that.
I think that it is one of the top haunted places in Arizona. I have investigated there a number of times. I was the first. My paranormal team was the first group that had permission to actually spend the night there. So we spent there, and we got voices at that time. We heard a recording that there was a lady that picked up someone saying, "Hello, fellows." We heard screams, and it was, because we were like bright, what's going on here? And
Right.
I've been there several times since. There's been times when my teammates were going down the steps that is by the Bridge of Sighs that went directly over to the courthouse.
Right.
And they were standing there just talking, and they felt someone come down those stairs, wish right past them. They did not get a picture because it shocked them, but they both, one was at the top of the stairs and was above, felt someone rush by. I've
Wow.
been in the courthouse, and it was just me and another girl, and we went upstairs by the courtroom, and we went into an area that used to be a storage room. Now they think they have it more as a reception area. And when we were in there, we heard a little girl giggling, and we actually got some candy and put some candy on a chair, because we get candy for you, talk to us more. And then we went downstairs, and as we were going downstairs, the lady who was working there ran upstairs because she heard a scream, and she thought one of us got hurt. And we're like, no, we have been talking to a little girl, though. So the place is very, very active all the time. And the whole city of Globe is active. In fact, that's my next project. I'm going to be writing a book called Haunted Globe. I'm starting that now. I have all my outline done. So now I'm going to actually be starting to, that'll go to print probably sometime next fall.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Globe, it's wild there. Some of those buildings. It's just because it was a wild and tough mining town, even more so than Tombstone. I've come to learn that place was very violent. Law and order was out of the question there, because that's how those old mining towns were, just like Jerome and Prescott a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Tombstone a couple of times. I never experienced anything paranormal there, but I went in the daytime where all the tourists, when the tourists go. So maybe that's why, I don't know. But yeah, the history is definitely, it's a violent history. A lot happened there. Certainly most of it was not good. I guess for the times they didn't think so much about it because it was kind of normal.
Now that was the way of life back then.
Exactly.
We were the Wild West, when back east it was all settled, and I'm sure things still happened there, but we were still violent and wild when everything was cooling down there. And that's what happened too. A lot of people came from the east that wanted to escape their reputations there, came out here to the west and continued what they were. Maybe they changed their name. People would die out here and they wouldn't even know who their family was, because they left their families back east to start a new life this way. Yep. So that's why there's some of the histories kind of got missing pages, because some people came out here to escape their reputations back east.
And most of them that came out, like the people you're speaking about, they came out very young. It wasn't like they were like in their 30s or 40s. They came out in their late teens, early 20s to get away from their families or situation they want to get away from. So there was a lot of time. A lot of time went by since they had seen their families. So which is exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
So they lost contact with them. So, we find that, with even people in our cemetery, we try to, do their bios, and we try to, look them up, and they're like, well, we can't find anything else. Why doesn't anybody know anything about that one? We figured, well, that was probably someone who escaped the East, came out, to Phoenix to start anew. And, they never told anybody where they were from.
Right. And it wasn't like communications was what it is today. So you could be wanted for a murder back in New Jersey and wind up in Arizona and start a whole new life and never be bothered.
Change your name. Nobody would know who you were. They didn't check for fingerprints and things like that back in those days. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And even the wanted posters, if you could change your look a little bit and change your name, and you get away with it. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Speaking about experiences, what was the most convincing piece of evidence you've ever found in relation to ghosts and entities?
Oh gosh, there's been so many things on and off. I'm trying to think of something. I was able to work on with a bunch of friends from Nebraska at the Villisca Axe Murder House in Iowa. They were going. We were going there on the 90th anniversary of the murders, and my friend there had did extensive research on the whole murder thing, and so he wanted to go to the house. He had picked up wonderful EVP of those little girls that were axed, and he always thought that the killer hid in the attic and waited for them to come home. So we were going there, a friend and I. We flew to Omaha. We drove down to Villisca, and we were going to investigate that night. And they actually invited some of the townsfolk to come and be in the house with us, so we wouldn't be able to say this happened and that happened, and people would never believe us. So they had actual witnesses come with us on the hunt, and it all went kind of nice and quiet till midnight, and that's when they claimed that everybody was murdered. And we were upstairs, and all of a sudden the midnight train went by, and I'm sure that's what covered all the noise from the last murder. Because this is, I'm 90 years later. Right. And once we heard the train go by, that room, the energy in there just got so intense. Wow. And then all of a sudden that man was gone, because you could feel his presence in the attic the whole time. Then as soon as the murder time was over, that was gone. So I think that was very intense as a feeling of something that went on. Mm-hmm. As far as seeing spirits, I probably like you, I probably only have seen maybe 5, maybe 6 in my entire career as a ghost hunter. And, it just doesn't happen like on TV, as we all know.
Right. Right.
And we, and a lot of times we're just not even expecting it. We went down to clear a house that had some negative activity in Mexico, and there were 4 of us that went that time. And as we were sitting in this little tiny condo, waiting for, we were going to do an investigation and do a kind of a cleansing on it the following morning. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden we heard like a sound of a table screeching on tile, which was very weird. It was nothing moved. We looked around. Yeah. About 15 minutes later, as we're sitting there, we were trying to play back our video and our recordings to see if we, picked up that screeching noise. We heard in the little kitchen area, just, beside us, like our big equipment boxes falling to the floor, crashing to the floor. We went in there, nothing was there. And so this is, the kind of thing that went on all night long. It was like something was messing with us. We heard knocking on doors. And it was a door that nobody could get to, because we kind of bolted ourselves into that house because we wanted to be safe. But the side door, you had to go over walls and everything to get to the side door. And that's where it was knocking. And it was just somebody playing with our minds all the time. And so, we stayed up most all night to do, watch this. We did see a ball move and, odds and end things. So then the next morning we did, cleansing. We had holy water. We had, sage, we had a broom that we were sweeping the wall, and we had, I don't remember what else. We had, this Ghost Be Gone spray that we have out of rosemary. And we went through the whole house. After we were gone, the whole house seemed calmer. The owner, who couldn't keep anybody in that building for more than, a month at a time, has had a permanent renter now for the last couple of years. But that was a very intense place. Wow. And it was like, none of us were scared. We're just like, we're gonna take care of this. It's not gonna hurt us. We're just, we just have to show them that we mean business, but we're not gonna get cocky over it either. But it did. It tried to mess with us for a while. So that was a very interesting investigation.
So you would say your experience there and what you did that night allowed this gentleman to rent out the place to someone now that doesn't experience any of that?
Haven't had no problems at all. And they couldn't keep anybody in there at all. They'd stay for a couple of weeks or they'd stay for a month. And they would, like, we can't stay here. It's just, too crazy here. But what we did, we learned that what happened, there was a family living there. The parents were into drugs. The kids were malnutritioned. One of the little boys died there. They took away the other children. The father was hit by a car on his bicycle. So we kind of thought it was the father and the son always trying to but they were on two different planes,
Right.
And they were trying to find each other. So we kind of we kind of tried to reunite them to make them understand that, oh, you guys are dead, but you can be together in another life. Things will be okay now. And the funny thing is, when we got it was down in Rocky Point. And when we got down there, we had time before we were going to do this investigation. So of course we had to go visit the cemeteries. And as we were driving around, we kept seeing this man riding on a bicycle. And we almost hit him about 3 times. So then after we learned that the man that was killed on a bicycle, we're going like, was this the guy just trying to make sure that we were okay? That we were going to come he knew we were going to be coming. So, and then we never saw him again after that evening. So.
Wow. What was it, an actual figure of a man on a bicycle, or was it
Yes. Wow. And we kept seeing the same man in different parts of town, riding a bike. And I go, could have been a coincidence, but why is it that we're only seeing one person on a bicycle, one man, and it's always the same man? So we just kind of, we thought, well, maybe it was the man that was killed on the bicycle, just making sure that we had good intentions coming to where he was, where his son died, because I think his son died at the house.
Okay. Yeah. So it could be a restless spirit there. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Restless spirits for sure. So that was an interesting one that we did there. And then there was another one that we did a long time ago, and it was a woman who lived in Mesa. She had a house and she was renovating it, and she discovered there was a boy that was living still in the house because he had gotten the flu in 1919, influenza, and he died in the attic. Oh. And he never understood why, where was his mother, why is he still there? And this woman just kind of took on the thing of his mother because she would just talk to him all the time, And then finally she contacted me and said, it's time, we kind of have to move him on, it's time. So we had a crew go there, and we set up cameras one night, and it was really interesting. We couldn't see him, but when we had the cameras running during the evening up in the attic, we could hear somebody clapping. The cameras were moving, like he was trying to figure it out. Right. And so then we went back and we went up in the attic and we did kind of like a circle, and we were, put the candle in the middle, and we kept telling the boy to go to the candle, go to the light. His mother would be waiting for him. And eventually the whole room, when we filmed it, got very, very cloudy. The woman who was acting as his earth mother started channeling him, and the boy went on, and she never had any problems with him ever again. And I always go to the Mesa Cemetery and visit him. I'll take him he liked fruit, I guess. So I would always, once in a while, I'll take him an orange or an apple and just put it on his grave. He's buried with his mother, and now he's reunited with his mother in the other world now. So, so we try to do good things, and we don't do it like crazy, like on TV where we're instigating. We try to make peace with them so they know like what we're doing is the right thing. So, and we usually deal with children if it has to do with a child, because I know. Well, when I'm a spirit in the spirit world, I wouldn't want anybody trying to move me on. I'll go if I want, but because I like to, I'd like to come and visit. I wouldn't want someone just always trying to get rid of me. So if it's involving a child, though, we will try to work with that.
Yeah, because they're confused and they have no clue.
Yeah, they don't know. Yeah, they don't know what they're supposed to do. So yeah.
So what you do actually, I, for lack of a better word, I don't want to use this word, but I can't think of another word. You sort of like it's sort of like an exorcism when you
kind of sort of. It's more we kind of talk to the spirit and explain to them that there is a better place where they can be, and they can be with their loved ones again. And they're, especially if they feel like they're confused and stuck here. And we just kind of explain it to them, and then we will do the thing where we use a candle for going to the light, because you want to follow the light, and we keep telling. And like when the little boy in the attic, I mean, he was describing, because he was actually speaking through this other woman, going above the room, going above the house, going into the clouds, and then he sees, he's this, I see her now. He described it. So. Wow. That's so powerful. Basically we just try to talk to them and tell them, this is, what you need to do, so you can be with your mother, or you can be with your loved ones again. Right. Because there's some, like I said, sometimes they're just confused.
Yeah, that's powerful. Wow.
It's very powerful and very rewarding in the end, but
yes, I can see
and it drains you. You use a lot of energy to do it.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. So being that you live in Arizona, I have to ask this is coming straight from me. I have to ask this question. Have you ever explored the lost Dutchman's mine in the Superstition Mountains?
No, I have not. Because I always hear about the stories, people getting lost. And
that's why I was asking you, because it's a little bit weird what goes on up there.
Yeah, I do have a friend that does a lot of hiking, and he's been up there, and he says it's so easy to get lost, and he's a really good hiker, and he says I understand how people looking for the lost Dutchman mine, how they do put themselves where they fall, or they can't get back, and he says I have turned around many times, and he's a really good hiker. So I'm not that good of a hiker, so I have never done it myself. But we do have the lost Dutchman is buried in our cemetery. So he's he is the person everybody comes to see when they come to our cemetery. He is buried there. And of course he's buried in the way back of the cemetery. So you have to walk through the whole thing to get to his grave. But I go out there every once in a while, and I'll sit there with a recorder and just ask him, can you tell me where it is? Hoping I'll get it on my digital recorder, but so far he has not spilled the beans.
He hasn't told
a lot of people say, though, he didn't really have a mine there. A lot of people say that he was going to a vulture mine near Wickenburg, high grading ore, and then he was telling people that's where he got it. But when he would take it to the assay house, they would say, no, this is like the vulture mine gold. So I think he was trying to cover his tracks and saying he had a mine up there.
Very well, might have been, There's so many legends. I just had to ask that question.
Yeah, exactly.
So on your wish list,
but now you know where he's buried. So.
Yes, I didn't know that. Yes, but now I know he's buried at that cemetery, so that's interesting. Maybe I'll go see it.
We're open, like I think it's the third Saturday or the fourth Saturday of the month for open house. So you'll have to come out sometime and take a walk through there.
Yeah, I'll come up with Keith and Lindsay and check it out. Yeah, why not? Yeah. So sounds good. So on your wish list of paranormal sites to visit, what is the top one that you haven't visited that you want to go to see?
I want to go to Gettysburg. I really want to just spend a week there and just learn the history and go to all the places known that are haunted. That's probably my top one. And I've gotten close so many times, and always something comes up where we have to cancel the trip or whatever. That to me, that just is really, really one of my top one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, from a history standpoint, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yes, and I love history.
Yeah, I've experienced just that one thing with that particular gravesite, but I hear that they do have a lot of weird things going on up there, and I think you can book time there to do your paranormal investigations. I think they do that there.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I'll get there. I think it'll be great. That is one that I really, really want to go to, and of course, I really like to do the entire travel Route 66 and stop at all the haunted places along the entire route. I just did Arizona last year. Right. And that's my book that's coming out in a couple weeks is Arizona's Haunted Route 66. And that one was so much fun to do. And I tell people that book was written with a lot of love because that was done during the pandemic. And I'd get like, there'd be like between like four people plus myself. And we started going out like last year, May 2020 May. And then we'd, come back and we'd wait another 6 weeks, make sure everybody was healthy and there was nothing else going on. We'd go out for another weekend. We did it in 4 sections. So we finished it up like in early October of last year, going on all the road trips. And we learned so much history. And we investigated so many haunted spots along the road and abandoned places and deserted places. So it was really great. And there was always these little impromptu investigations because we get to places and people would send us to their basements or send us down this hallway. So we got to really investigate too along the way. So it was, like I said, this is kind of like, kind of a work of love because, we had to really love it to get out there during those hard times when a lot of places were closed. We had to like pick and choose our restaurants, because we didn't want to be in a crowd. And, and so, my little helpers, as I call them, they're so excited, that it's coming out in a few weeks as they finally get to read what they uncovered while we were gone,
Right. That sounds, I got to check that one out. I just have one, I do have one of your books that I'm started to read now, Grand Canyon Ghost Stories.
That one was another one that was kind of like, hard to do at first because there were no ghost books about the Grand Canyon, just maybe a story here and there. So that was another time I got a bunch of ladies together on that one. And we went up and spent 4 days at the Grand Canyon, going all around and visiting all the shops, visiting all the historic locations and gathering stories. And then I would go online and try to research with the mule runners, and I would research the river runners, and they would then they started sending me emails about their experiences, the things they saw when they were, hiking or, going down the river. So that one got to be really special too at the end, because man, there are stories about the Grand Canyon up there. So yeah, that one was fun.
They had quite a few, well, I don't know about quite a few, but they had some incidents where people actually fell off of the canyon itself and got killed. Sometimes with riding a donkey or a mule, whatever they ride down there, or they used to do that. I don't know if they do that anymore.
Yeah, they still do. I don't think they have as many accidents doing that. It's more people trying to do selfies and take pictures, and they keep backing up and they fall over, and some people jump to their death anyway. Some people are murdered up there, and there's that whole book about people falling off the Grand Canyon. But I think when they do the mules, I don't think there's many accidents because those mules are trained. Right, and I don't know, it would make me very nervous myself because they get very close to the edge.
I know.
I'd probably be doing the whole trip with my eyes closed. But
it's almost like being on a roller coaster. You don't want to know what's happening next because it's very, like you say, it's very narrow at places. And
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So we're talking about your books. I'm going to go over what I have listed, and then feel free to talk about any ones you want, and then add anything that I've missed. We talked about the Grand Canyon Ghost Stories, and you also wrote one called Haunted Phoenix, and then you wrote one about Ghost of Houston's Market Square Park, I think.
I co-wrote that one with a lady down in Houston. So that one is mostly Herbie, and I just kind of add a little paranormal to it as well. But she was a friend I met she did tours down in Houston for many years. And of course, whenever I'm always looking for a tour, and we just really hit it off as friends. And she wanted to do a book on all that history of that downtown area, and I told her I would help her. So
okay, all right.
That's mostly her baby.
Okay, well, you did have part of it.
Yeah.
So. Yep. And you also wrote some children's books, which I was surprised to see. One, The Adventures of
it's kind of a big change writing scary ghost stories and you turn around.
Yeah, sure it is.
I have 3 books. It's The Adventures of Chiclet, Piglet, and he's just the typical little pig doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up, so he just does these little these little adventures on, different places and places he wants to go and different things he wants. Basically, Piglet is me. If you read it, there's all kinds of secret little things in there that, little dates are in there, little names that change in there. But yeah, it was just a fun book I used to write for my children when they were young. And then I thought, I'm going to work on them. So yeah, there's 3 of them. I was working on them before, but I think the publisher of that company kind of went down during COVID time. So I didn't get to finish 4. So I'll have to find another publisher that can handle that one.
Yeah, a few of them did go. The small publishers, a couple of them went down that I know of.
Yeah, I was really worried about my Phoenix publisher too, but he just, he has maintained and he just stays small. Right, and I actually have a book coming for him shortly. It's on, it's called School Spirits, and it's last lessons, learned, and it's Arizona's schools and universities that have ghost stories. So.
Oh, okay.
It probably won't be out sometime next year.
That sounds cool. Yeah, but that sounds interesting. So how do you find the time to write all these books? I mean, I've been writing for quite a while now, and I only have 3 books out there, and you got like 25 out there or whatever it is.
I've had a lot of stories that gathered, so that always kind of helps a little bit because I have kind of like a little back library I can go to, and then everywhere we've traveled around the state, I've picked up stories and I've just kind of kept them in a little back file. So then I thought, I want to write about schools. So then I start going through all my schools, notes and stories I found. Then I ask friends, what school did you go to? Anything weird ever happen? So I gather a lot of stories from friends actually that have had experiences. So that's how I get a lot of the stories, and like the one on restaurants, that one is the, Dining with the Dead. That one was really fun. I gained like 15 pounds doing that one because I had to keep going to restaurants and eating and with my friends so we get stories. But that one is a fun one too.
That's one I missed, and I shouldn't have missed it because it intrigued me when I read that you wrote that, and I just didn't, for some reason I didn't put it on my my list here. Like I said, you had so many books, it surprised me. But yeah, that sounds like a really interesting.
And then the first one I wrote too, and I've looked it up, and it's been almost 20 years now, is Sleeping with Ghosts. And that one is still a very popular book, even though like times have changed since I wrote that one, techniques about ghost hunting. And it talks about, the bad word orbs. And, we don't even mention orbs in these days. But back then, that orbs were like, oh my God, the most wonderful thing ever. And so that was my very first book. Still one of the most popular ones that I sell. It's unbelievable. And the other one I have is the Graveyard Shift, and that's about haunted and historic cemeteries in Arizona. So that one is a favorite too because I love cemeteries. So,
well, I'll make sure when this goes live again that the producer puts all those books out there so you.
I can send pictures. I can send you pictures and everything too. I have them on my website.
I'm sure he's got them too, but if you want to send them, that's fine. But I'm sure he has them. But like I said, I was shocked when I saw how many you had. But that's incredible. I also was surprised.
Well, that's 20 years worth. So
that's it's a big accomplishment. I want to talk a little bit about your celebrity doll collection.
Oh, my dolls. Well, I don't know. It's dark. I'm sitting in the room. I kind of like darkened it up, but this room I have where my computer has floor to ceiling celebrity dolls. I have probably 650 celebrity dolls. Wow. And they're TV people, band people, actresses from movies, all kinds of things. And I probably have probably 10 Shirley Temples. And I love the celebrity dolls. So my plan was to have a museum someday, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then my poor daughter, she's like, I don't know, Mom, when you go, I'm going to have a sale, buy one doll, get 5 free. I don't want these dolls. But I go, no, you got to give them if you don't want them, you got to give them to a museum. It's like, I love the celebrity dolls and I'm always finding them. They're always, making, a lot of them are like Barbie doll size. So they don't
Uh,
take up a lot of space. You know,
right.
they're in their, a lot of them are in their boxes still stacked to the ceiling. And then some of them are, you know, sitting on shelves, but they're just a lot of fun.
What was
I
your
don't, and
first one
then
that?
my first one is a Shirley Temple from when I was 6 years old. I still have her.
Wow.
I
Okay.
still,
Yeah.
I still have her. Then of course I didn't really collect them till probably about, I want to say maybe 40 years ago. I started getting really heavy into it, and
Yeah. That's a
there's
look.
always one I find somewhere.
Right. So, what's your favorite?
Probably the Shirleys. I love the
Shirley?
Shirley
Yeah.
Temple dolls. I love them.
Yeah.
They're just really really cool. I
I guess
have
if you had,
I have a
go ahead.
giant Marie Osmond doll that my one friend claims is scary looking and haunted, but I don't know. And I
It
do
could
have
be.
one. I have a W.C. Fields doll that is haunted. I will tell you a story on that one. I used to order a lot of dolls on eBay back when, and I ordered a W.C. Fields doll, and I,
Right.
took it in, brought, and I had it sitting on my kitchen counter for probably 3 or 4 days. Just stood there freestyle, not even with a stand. So finally, I thought, I'm going to go and put it on the shelf. It goes the other of his kind. So I came in the doll room, climbed up there, stuck him on the shelf where the other dolls of his, company are, and it stood up there for about 2 days. And one day I came home, and the doll had apparently fallen, but it was laying sideways on another shelf. And
Huh.
so I asked my daughter, because she was still living at home at that time, I go, did this doll fall and you just laid it up here, so, it wouldn't be on the floor? And she goes, I don't touch your dolls, Mom. I don't touch any of them. So I said, okay. Well, so then I went back up and I put it back on the shelf again. And, about 3 days later, that particular doll was down on the floor that time.
Wow.
So then I picked it up, went back up there one more time, and I said, I don't know, who's knocking this doll down, but whoever it is, just don't look at this doll. Like, maybe you don't like W.C. Fields or something. So I turned it, and I kind of turned sideways and lifted up his lapel of his shirt, of his
Right.
jacket, and no one has ever touched it since. It has never fallen since I asked whoever it was, just don't look at the doll.
Well, it's
And it's
probably one of
still
the.
up there
It
the
was probably.
same.
I was going to say it's
Yeah,
probably one of
yeah,
the other dolls that he was known to be obnoxious and rude and
yeah, yeah,
difficult. So
yeah.
they might have just pushed him off.
I know. I think so. I don't know. He's still up there with his collar
Wow,
changed on.
that's
And
interesting.
I just leave it like that because I figure, okay, we've got peace in this room. We're gonna keep it like that.
Right, right. Wow, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, my wife has a Vivian Lee Gone with a Scarlett O'Hara Gone with the Wind doll. That's from that
Oh yeah, I
celebrity
have some
type
of
of thing.
those too.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And
I
I
have
look
some
at
of those
that.
too.
Yeah, I look at it and I go, it's a little weird, but whatever. So
Yeah, that's
six.
like I said. People walk in this room and they look around and go like, "Oh, no one could sleep in here. Too
That's a
many
lot of
dolls."
dolls. Yeah, $600 is
Yeah,
a lot of dolls. That's for sure.
it is a
Wow.
lot of dolls.
So,
And I
so
can't.
I
I keep
don't
a
know.
big. They go, "How do you know?" When I have a big inventory,
Yeah, you certainly do.
you
Yeah,
keep adding them to the list.
keep tracking of trying to keep track of them must be difficult too.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and,
kind of know where everybody is, but I just kind of, as I get new ones, if I get a couple of them, I try to keep them going on my list, and then I'm okay.
right, right. Wow, that's funny. So, is there anything else you want to speak about the books before we move on to some of the questions the audience might have for you?
Oh no! So let's do questions.
Okay, we'll do some
We can go do
questions.
questions.
All right,
Okay.
I'm waiting for my producer to flip to the next page, but I guess she must be asleep
Oh,
in there. I
okay.
don't know. Oh, there you go. Oh, no,
There he goes.
oh, okay. So a lot of new authors, especially the self-published authors, the ones that just are starting
Mhm.
out, and they're frustrated when trying to find a literary agent or a publisher willing to handle their work. Do you have any advice for them?
What I always tell people is to, like if you're writing a book on, say, I have a friend that was doing one on celebrities and what, pretty, um,
I think I lost you. I think you
And I
froze.
says, well, look online and look look for a publisher that has, published that topic, and then you know who to contact. Like when I first sleeping with ghosts way back, and look for Arizona publishers that kind of publish historic and kind of quirky things. And I found a publisher that I thought might bite on it. And really lucky. And a new publisher took over the business, and he's the one that like, okay, and you need to add another book. So then I added the graveyard one, and then a few years later I added the dining one, and now I'm working on the school one, and that's all for that particular publisher. So once you get a publisher that is interested in your topic, and then you can really go for it then. And that's what I said. I had no clue. I didn't get published till I was 53 years old. So it's like, important to, not give up, just go and keep trying. And that's what I did. I just went online and I looked for, books that were topics of Arizona. So I knew if I find a publisher that, published things about Arizona, they might be interested in, Arizona hotels and bed and breakfasts. So that's how I went from there. And now I get, like when I did Grand Canyon, they contacted me from, I think they're up in Montana. And so they do a book on like national monuments and forests and, the Grand Canyon, those historic places like that. So they actually contacted me in Arizona, that book. And then pretty soon, Arcadia Press now has contacted me to do, we did the Haunted Phoenix book, and then now the Grand Canyon book. And then they contacted me again to do the Haunted Globe, Arizona book. So after you get out there, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you say they contacted you, is that after you had a book out and they read it and then they contacted you for future books?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I understand.
After you get a couple books out, then other publishers that have, that same type of interest, they start, Googling around and they say, oh, well, this person has written a book about this or that, let's see, in my case, about haunted places in Arizona. We want to write some books about other things in Arizona. Let's see if she would be interested. So because I have like 3 or 4 different publishers I work through, but to get started, you really have to, do your homework and find, like I contacted some other publishers that were out of state, and they said, no, contact somebody in your own state, about, the haunted locations, the historic locations. Right. And that's what I did. So, find a publisher that is publishing that type of subject.
Yeah, that's
so genre. They have an interest. Yeah.
Right. I understand that. I mean, the fact that you write what you do write, with the exception of the children's book, which are always good to write because children love to read books, or their parents love to read the books for them. But the subject matter that you write about intrigues an awful lot of people, so that helps too.
But I guess, and I combined a lot of history with my stories. Right. Like I just don't write a story. I'll actually sit there for like days looking up newspaper articles about what happened and about the place to find clues like why it might be haunted or something like that. I just don't take it for granted that someone said, oh yeah, there's it's haunted by a ghost that was a dance hall girl. I'll look and see, well, was there a dance hall girl who worked at this restaurant?
Right.
There's a story about that. And because there's so much hearsay. Right, and I even put a disclaimer in the book about the schools because, rumors get, by the students, they make up ghost stories sometimes about their schools. And I put in there, like, this, even though I researched and found a lot of truth in a lot of the stories, some of it is just, hearsay from the students that have claimed that their school was haunted all these years. So
exactly, yeah.
I always say that, history and mystery go hand in hand. So if you find the history, you're going to find some kind of quirky history story, that happened back then. And it's going to be like a mystery or a murder. And you just combine that history and you take that murder story and there you got a ghost story.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I write mostly historical fiction. Sometimes I have paranormal involved with it, but it's always based on history somewhere along the way. Or I throw history into the story some way, because history is just, to me, it's the greatest topic in the world, history.
Oh, yeah.
And, you can't go wrong with it. As long as you stay accurate and you don't wander too far.
And I have, sometimes, I will have other people get mad at me because they'll say, well, this happened this way. And I'm like, I've got the newspaper article. I've got the death certificates. I've got all the, the court documents right here. It's not how you're saying, this is what really happened. And then they're like, oh, well, that kind of kills their story, So
Yeah.
You got to know what really happened.
You do. You have to know what happened. I mean, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing a fiction story that's based on history, but it's fiction, you have a little leeway to for your characters and the story itself. But you have to be careful with the background of history that it's accurate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I read a lot of old newspapers.
That's what I do too. Believe it or not.
I've gone to a lot of courthouses looking for documents. So I try to get as close as I can to being factual and historical correct, but sometimes it's a little off because even if you look, you can't find it, and then someone's going to tell you, well, this is how it was, so you're not 100% sure, but you're pretty sure.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Yeah. So anyway, my last question from the audience is, this show seems to kind of like lean towards self-publishers, because that's usually your newest authors. So a lot of them watch the show, and a lot of them are frustrated when they're trying to find the best way to market their books and to advertise and sell their books. Any advice, any final words, that you can give them that, encourages them what to look for?
Self-publishing is a lot of work on you got to do all the work. You're going to be your marketing, you're going to be taking care of, your ordering your books if you're ordering it from a printer, and sometimes you're going to pay a lot of money, and you're going to end up with this big inventory that maybe you're not going to know what to do with because you ordered like 500 books, and maybe then you got to go out and sell them. Yeah. And so that means you're going to have to contact every little, book signing place, every store, any place that's doing like, a historic museum that's doing like a art thing for the weekend to see if you can come there and set up a table. You're going to do a lot of your own work. Luckily, with having a publisher, they do a lot of the marketing for you, but you can always make suggestions and say, hey, I contact this place, they're interested. And they'll send them all kinds of goodies, to posters and things to have you come and do the work. So when you're doing your own self-publishing, you're got to be really, really dedicated into it and almost, make it your life, because you're going to be the one, putting the money into it. And, of course, you'll be getting all the money, back when you sell your books. But I prefer not to work quite that hard. That's a hard work, self-publishing. And like I said, I've seen a lot of people try it, and they end up with the big inventory stuck at their place, because you got to go out and look. I even know published authors that work through a publishing company. If they don't go out and look for places to do book signings or book shows and things, they're not making any money either. So I try, and with what I do is find places that are having a paranormal conference sometimes, or some place that's having a book fair, or art fair even, because you can do different items and you got to get involved and look for things like that to sell your books. You always got to be on it. You have publicity pages. I have my regular Facebook page, and I have a Debe Branning author page. So when I try to put author things on there every once in a while. If people send me pictures, oh, I bought your book, I'll put their picture on my author page. Just, just always you always have to kind of be out there. At Halloween time, Christmas time, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, you want to go online and kind of pimp your book again a little bit, you're going to get a book from mom, here, she liked ghost books. Here's some books.
Right.
And sometimes you get response and sometimes you don't. After all your friends already have your books, so they're like, oh, okay, what's she selling now?
Yeah. Once you run out of relatives and everything, you better have an audience
all
somewhere.
Relatives buy you a book and all your friends, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
There's always somebody new. Yeah. Somebody new that comes online and, likes it. And then, your publishers will distribute the books a lot for you too. It took a long time to finally get my Grand Canyon book up in the Grand Canyon area.
Right.
But now they have it in a lot of the stores up near the Grand Canyon, and that one does pretty good on its own now.
I can see that. Yeah.
In the beginning, that one was a hard one for the first couple of years to kind of give that little push, and then my local publisher that does my publishing here in Phoenix. He takes care of a lot of the mom and pop bookstores all around Arizona. So that helps a lot. And then Arcadia Press is a pretty big national publishing company now. They get a bigger cut, but you still sell a lot of books and you still get a decent check with them too. When you get those little royalty checks every, twice a year, that's always so exciting because you're like, okay, last year was a horrible year though. I hardly sold any books, but because I couldn't do any shows. I couldn't, go and do any, basically, people were just staying home. They didn't want to buy anything. So it was kind of a slow year, but this year has picked up a lot again because people are wanting to travel again. So they like my books. Like a lot of people say they carry my books in their car when they travel because then they know where to eat. They know where to get a room. Right. They know what cemetery to go to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
the travel guides too.
Yeah. I think the whole key to everything, whether it's self-publishing or having a publisher, is marketing. You have to do it, whether you have to do it by yourself or with the help of a publisher, you need to do that. Otherwise, you go nowhere.
Yeah. And it's really, and if you help and find places for the publisher that has the marketing, they're more apt to try to find more places for you because they know that you're a go-getter and you'll go places. Even if you have marketing with a publisher, and if you're not ever, I can't go there or I don't want to do that, they'll stop looking for places for you too. So it kind of, I look for places and they look for places and tell me. So it works out pretty good. And then they're more apt to work with you.
Interesting. Very interesting. So basically, it's all in attitude and behavior by the author himself. Just whether it's
you got to get creative.
Get
creative. When you go out and do your book tables, make your book tables interesting so it'll draw people to the table to even look at your book. Like my Grand Canyon book, I've been prepping for that one for last 6 months, and I found like little Grand Canyon coffee mugs and things to decorate my table with, so when they're walking by, they'll, look down, and see, that's kind of a cute cup. I go, you want a book about that, you have to have an interesting table and always have candy on your table.
Really? That I didn't know. When I
always have candy on your table. At least they'll stop and get a piece of candy, and then you'll have a chance to maybe grab their hand and say, bye, book.
Yeah, that's good, right?
Yeah, I just buy a bag of hard candy and put it in a bowl, and
there you go.
They'll walk by and they'll go, "Can I have a candy?" I go, "Sure." And, buy a book while you're here.
Why not? Yeah, sure.
They like freebies.
Yeah, of course, everybody does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're kind of like just about out of time, but what I wanted to ask you: do you have any final words you want to say to the audience? And hopefully you'll encourage your followers to look at the show. And, of course, I'll do the same with mine because the more people you get, the more exposure you get.
Exactly. So, all I can say is if you want to be an author, just keep plugging away at it and have your friends read it. and have them give them an honest opinion. Like I said, I was 53 when I published my first book, so you can do it at any age. And just keep writing. I start books all the time and I'm like, that one's not going to work. And then I find one like, oh, I can find a lot of stories on that. And just ask people, ask questions. And, I don't know if you're writing fiction, study the history of the era that your fictional characters are in. So everything, is, historically correct. If you're writing, nonfiction like I do, again, study your history and get all your facts, correct. Get permission from people that, before you write things. A lot of my friends, they'll go, I don't want my name in the book, but you can say, this, my friend, the students or whatever, get permission. And if you write about your friends, they're going to really like you. then they'll buy lots of books and get them for their friends too. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that's true.
Just stay active in it and don't ever give up. Just keep going at it. Like I said, last year was a very slow year for all writers and publishers, but this year has broke through again because, and like I said, who would ever have thought that I could write a book during the pandemic and be really happy with the results? That to me, that's kind of like something that I always cherish, taking my friends on that trip.
That's true. That was quite an accomplishment considering everything that was going on at the time.
Yeah. We had to be very careful when we were on the road.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Yeah. Well, anyway, Debbie, I appreciate your time and the interview. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to finishing your book, and I'm going to look forward to reading that book about Dining with the Dead, because that sounds something like I want to read.
Oh, yeah. And Grand Canyon, that's going to be out September 13th. So that'll be out just a couple more weeks.
I want to thank you for your time. I really enjoyed this one. I did. So thank you, and have a good rest of the day and stay safe. All right.
All right. Thank you, and happy Halloween.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Happy Halloween. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching today's episode of Bios to Books. I'm Dan Davidson, and until next time, remember, new discoveries never come without searching for them first.
We hope you enjoyed today's guest, paranormal author and investigator Debe Branning. Deb can be found on Facebook or via her email. Please be sure to check out all her latest books on Amazon.com, including her new release, Grand Canyon Ghost Stories, spooky tales about Grand Canyon National Park. You can also check out Deb's series of children's books, The Adventures of Chiclet, Piglet.
Bios to Books is an RCJ production. We also have some books that you might find interesting that are available on Amazon. Old World Magic in the Modern World by Patty Negri. Masquerade by Kara Lockwood. Legacy of the Tigers by Iris Yang. The Final Position by Ian MacDonald. Two Souls United by Rebecca Hefner. Mermaids Mary and Green by Alice Renaud. Depolarized by Nick Arias. Battle of Fortune Wells by Daniel C. Chamberlain. And let's not forget about our books by Daniel Davidson and Rick Marcano. You have Butterfly Wish, available on Amazon. Twice Upon a Time, also available on Amazon. The Soul of Juby Walker. And another one they're working on is Tasting Raindrops. These are all available on bookbaby.com and Barnes & Noble Nook. Also, while you're watching things, we have the fantastic TTABA, The Unexplained, and Straight Up Paranormal. You can come on over and hit the like button.